All right. So for my advanced organizer this week, I am doing the Screencast-O-Matic along with a presentation of just some keywords that I found throughout my reading. As you can tell, it's a picture of an otter. That's because it's my favorite animal. So for the first part, just chapter 5, kind of summarizing that. One of the first things I found very important was page 117. And on page 117, it talks about co-teaching and consultant teaching, coordination of paraprofessionals and teacher assistant teams. So just reading through that, we've been kind of talking about working in pairs this whole entire week, and that's what a lot of our that's actually what our whole entire module was about this week, was just cooperative learning. So I think that co-teaching and consultant teaching and doing all these different things, working with the general education teacher just to what we'll talk about later, co-plan a lesson or working with a lesson that is so that all the kids in that classroom can learn and achieve at the highest level. That's the main goal for all of these strategies. Another thing I really found was this sentence that I found on page 118. It says, in summary, the critical role of the special education teacher is to collaborate with all key stakeholders in the school, including the school psychologists, speech and language specialists, general education teachers, and school leaders, to make critical decisions about, number one, determining and implementing research-based practices, number two, collecting and using ongoing data to make effective decisions for students with learning and behavioral problems, number three, identifying appropriate practices for differentiating instruction within the classroom interventions, and number four, communicating effectively with all key stakeholders so that appropriate instruction is provided to all students with learning and behavioral problems. So it kind of just basically summarizes exactly what exactly what those bullet points are telling you. So let's see. And then we want to get to the point about co-planning. And throughout the rest of the book is just talking about more about key teaching or co-teaching, but key planning is more, as you can see right here. Co-planning is working alongside the general education teacher, and just getting with them and planning a lesson for a unit. So on page 126 and 127, it has some great examples of how this happens, what co-planning lesson plan looks like, and then on 127 it shows a filled-in lesson plan of co-planning. So co-teaching at the secondary level, how will I implement that? Let's see. I don't really know exactly how that's going to work for me because I don't really want to work with secondary students. But I believe that right here it says at the secondary level, co-teaching is difficult for special education teacher. So I really found that important just because I'm sure that a lot of the difficulties that they are having at the secondary level are going to be some of the same difficulties that I'm having at the middle school level or the middle grade level. So I would suggest just like working with your peers, working with the teachers that they came from to try to figure out, okay, how can we best let this student achieve at their highest level possible. And then probably the main thing I found is how do you communicate with other professionals in a professional way. So the one thing that I found I think is most important is mutual respect and trust. So you have to have a respect that the general education and the special education teachers together have to know that, okay, I trust you and I respect you enough to know that, to respect your opinion and respect your input. And that way we can correlate a decision. You don't necessarily have to agree, but as long as you're trying to do what you think is best for the student, that's what really matters. So you don't want to hinder your disagreement in a way that it's not going to let the students achieve at their highest level possible. So, and then one more thing that I found was very very interesting is developing interviewing skills with the students. So I think this would be a great way to just get students prepared for the real world, because all of them are going to be interviewed at some point in their life, whether that's for a job, to get into college, to get whatever they're trying to do at the next level, they're going to be interviewed. So working with them through those skills, and this just shows a list, and it gives a little bit more information underneath. But the list is ask open questions, obtain specificity, specific, whatever, obtain specificity, and identify the problem. Solve problems, summarize and give feedback. So those are just some of the ways that they believe that obtaining interviewing skills and developing those skills can help them for their future learning. Okay, and then for the next part, how do you work with parents and teachers, with parents and teachers together? So how does that correlation and professionalism look? So here we have, I'm just going to talk about kind of how I believe that I'm going to implement this. So it has a highlighted version or highlighted section for siblings. And I think that the siblings are very important because the siblings almost always is going to be your best friend and the person you go to when you're down and out. So I believe that having that and talking to them and growing that relationship with the sibling can really help the special education student or teacher to know more about the student. Again, you always want to make sure that you're building a relationship with the parent. So sending out letters and sending out voicemails and calling them and letting them know, hey, this is what we're doing this week. This is what's happening. Just calling them and letting them know, hey, your son Billy had a great day today at school. I just want to let you know. Or having that open enough relationship to where you can be like, you know what, Billy wasn't really on task today and he was not performing up to my standards. So you want to make sure that relationship is good and strong, and that way that if you all have any disagreements or any problems, you all can work through them professionally, like I said already, instead of letting that hinder the child's ability to learn. So let's see, and then I have these handouts. So I'm going to get off this my Otter right here. So I'm going to pull up some of the websites that we were looking at. So that's the screencast. So the first thing I looked up was the Essential 5. Excuse me. And I really think this is cool. I really like some of these ideas, but the main one that I kind of want to hit on today was something we talked about on Thursday in class was the timed pair share. And today even though it was think pair share, this is pretty much the same thing. So you give the students the opportunity to think about the answer to the question, and then they get in pairs, so they're learning together and they're sharing with their peers, and then they're sharing with the group what they thought. I've seen this done. I'm pretty sure I was on YouTube or Facebook or something looking up something one time, and I've seen a strategy like this used before where a teacher does this all the time. Instead at the end, instead of sharing, they're like teaching their peers what they've just learned. So the general education or the special education teacher says, okay, this is what we've done. Now I want you to teach it to your peers. So you're teaching that strategy to your peer because on Bloom's taxonomy, if you know it well enough to teach it, then that's the highest level of achievement. That's the highest level of knowing how to of learning. So being able to teach it to someone else will really help the student be able to keep it in their long-term memory. Again, it has other strategies like Rally Robin, Round Robin, Rally Coach, Stand Up, and Stand Up, Hand Up, Pair Up. But just something that I really, really liked was the Think, Pair, Share. So next thing was the cooperative learning structures. So this is just basically some things are kind of repetitive, but one thing that I've used and seen implemented before in this was number 7, and that's the jigsaw. So basically, in my education classes, I've done a jigsaw where we had out-of-class assignments, and you had to bring in something and teach it to the rest of your peers. I like this strategy. However, if I was going to use this in my classroom, something you have to keep in mind is if you do assign outside homework, you have to be prepared for students not to come into class the next day because of unforeseen circumstances, or they get nervous and don't want to present. So that is definitely a disadvantage because you don't want to have a whole entire section of content being missed because one student missed a day. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're using this strategy. But then again, there's think, pair, share. There's all these different strategies. So this is a great resource for trying to figure out how can I use collaborative learning. Now I'm going to pull up the PowerPoint, and basically this really shows how really how to use cooperative learning. It talks about, I really like how this talks about group size and dealing with diversity, and what are the benefits of cooperative learning. I also like how it talks about the accountability for each student. So you guys can definitely look through this, but I really like how it basically just lays it out in a very easy and well explained way. So whatever the student's interests are, you could do it that way. It just really, all this depends on the way you want to set up your class. So giving students power, that's a great way to let them feel like they are more in charge of something, and that way that they can work better together. So this is just an easy tool that we can use when we are trying to do co-teaching and cooperative learning strategies. So I'm gonna go ahead and exit out of this. And then the next thing I have was the VACAT, which stands for Visual, Auditory, Kinesthetic, and Tactical. So one thing that I really like about this strategy is way down here. I really like about this website is that it shows you kind of how a student learns and how you can best let them achieve at their highest level of learning. So auditory learners mean that they learn better when they are talking. They move their lips and read out loud. They do when they hear better. So this is just kind of some strategies you could do to implement or to use with the students who have auditory learning skills or who achieve that best that way. And again, you probably want to give a test to figure out, hey, how do you learn the best, or how would you like to learn the best? So again, same thing down here with visual learners. Great strategies to use right here. Kinesthetic learners, which is what I feel I am. These are great strategies to use and get their hands-on approach. So next thing, I have a couple websites that we were supposed to look at. So for this one, number one, the one thing I really like about this, it has frequently asked questions, and those general questions can get answered if you click on any of these links. But I like this over here with the eligibility categories. I like how this, let's just look at autism for example. I like how this shows you what autism is up here in this first paragraph, and then an intervention plan for students with autism. In this paragraph right here. So you could come to any of these categories and click, okay, look, I have a student with a traumatic brain injury, and it'll take you and show you what a traumatic brain injury is. And then down here it has a staff contact, so that you can contact somebody from the Georgia Department of Education, and they can contact you and talk to you. It has downloads, online resources for you to learn by yourself. So this is a really great opportunity for your students and for you to learn. The Jigsaw Classroom, basically we've already talked about this. What this is the step process to how to have an easy 10-step Jigsaw Classroom. So dividing your students into groups, appointing one as the leader of the group, divide the day's lesson into 5 or 6 segments, assigning student one segment. So you guys can read that, but definitely a good strategy to use. And then I have 2 more. One, this website's kind of been giving me a little bit of trouble, but I really like that this website, excuse me, I like that I connect with other educators, so contacting us solutions, I like that a lot up here. Let me click on this and see if it doesn't go away. But these are questions that are asked and questions that have been answered by someone on staff through Dr. Marilyn Friend's company. So, and there goes the website. So I don't know why it keeps doing that. And then lastly, I like this website just because it gives you examples. It has this video. This is a great video to watch and just some cooperative learning techniques that you can use. So that's kind of all I have for today. So that's my advanced organizer for the week.